How is Mazoe?
Lovely.
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 Yeah?
Lovely.
How is Mazoe?
Perfect. Very nice.
Trust me, that's not Irish cider. In case your bosses see this. It is Mazoe.
Thank you.
Alright, okay.
A few months ago, I made a video that I thought was an innocent take on the whole diaspora relocation trend. It was about the need for honesty when people present their relocation stories. What I can't stand is somebody who has come to the UK, who has been here for 20 plus years, who's had all the opportunities, they've managed to upgrade themselves, they've managed to go to university, when back in Zimbabwe, they would not have qualified to go into any university. They managed to get themselves into a university, get themselves a university education, even go on to do a master's. They've really done well. They've probably set up a business. They have made money out of that business, and they've got quite a saving in various bank accounts, some savings in various bank accounts, and then they decide that they need to go back to Zimbabwe. That is wonderful. That is a fantastic thing. Now, but when you go back to Zimbabwe now, don't tell people that there is nothing in the UK. That's my issue. Many of you agreed with what I was highlighting. A few, however, took issue with what I said, subsequently turning it into a debate about where life is better, the diaspora or home. But I think there is one important point that can easily get lost whenever we compare Zimbabwe with countries like the UK. People often assume that if you point out something the UK does well, you are attacking Zimbabwe. And equally, if somebody points out something Zimbabwe is doing well, it doesn't mean they are saying the UK is terrible, neither is it an endorsement of the current government in Zimbabwe. Life is rarely that simple. Now, a few weeks ago, something happened at our house in the UK that reminded me why these conversations need balance. The gas infrastructure company came to replace the gas supply pipe into our house. What should have been a straightforward job became much more complicated. After digging up part of our front garden, they couldn't get the new pipe through the original underground route that had been installed when the houses were built back in the 1960s. They tried an alternative solution using a narrower pipe. However, a week or so ago, we noticed that whenever we ran hot water for a few minutes, the boiler would shut itself off. So naturally, we contacted the boilerman who installed it for us about 7 years ago. Within an hour, he arrived. He carried out his checks and suggested that since the boiler was still in warranty, we should contact the boiler manufacturer instead. The same day, we called the boiler manufacturer and they booked an appointment for an engineer to come the following morning. And the following morning, the engineer turned up and did his checks, and he said the boiler was fine. The problem was that the gas supply wasn't sufficient from the main supply line that was outside. So he advised that we should contact the gas infrastructure company who had replaced the pipe a few weeks earlier. The very same day, the infrastructure company sent in their own engineer. After carrying out his own pressure test, he too agreed that there wasn't enough gas coming through into the house to fire up the boiler. His conclusion was that they had to now reroute completely the gas supply from the main line outside the property because the original underground route simply wasn't usable anymore. So that meant digging up an even larger section of the front garden. So another engineering team promptly arrived to initiate the new connection. So their job was to reroute the gas from needing to go through under the house to a new spot that is outside the front porch. In the sweltering British heat, these two lads worked. They had their own water, but at the point I thought they could do with some Mazoe, Zimbabwe's greatest gift to the world.
How is Mazoe?
Lovely.
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 Yeah?
Lovely.
How's Mazoe?
Perfect. Very nice.
Trust me, that's not Irish cider. In case your bosses see this. It is Mazoe.
Thank you.
Alright, okay.
Once they had completed rerouting the gas pipes, they signed off and they left. Because they had switched off the gas completely, they left us a single plate electric stove to cook on, since our hob was to be out of commission without the gas supply. The following morning, another set of engineers came to connect the gas pipes from the outside the house into the house. After an assessment, they said it was a job too complicated for their level of experience. They contacted the gas company and a new set of more senior engineers was sent out. After confirming that it was indeed a very complicated job, they got to work. They drilled and they ran the pipes through the lounge, into the passage, up to the ceiling, down the passage and back down into the gas terminal that is under the stairwell. When I sat afterwards, I thought about how many people had been involved. The original gas engineers, the boiler engineer, the gas investigation team, a second engineering crew to install the new supply, a final engineer to commission the work. All of that happened between Friday and Monday afternoon, and the total we paid was zero. Absolutely nothing. I should also mention that there is a separate discussion underway with the gas infrastructure company regarding the disruption that was caused. As that process is still ongoing, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment any further at this stage. The point isn't that everything went perfectly. It clearly didn't. The point is that when something did go wrong, there was a clear process. Multiple specialists became involved. The problem was resolved and resolved quickly, and there's also an established process for raising any concerns, as I am doing in the aftermath. The issue is, when people compare the cost of living between Zimbabwe and a place like the UK, they look at the price tag, the headline figure that is attached to the item that you want to buy or the service that you want to buy. They often only compare prices. So they'll say electricity is expensive, compare it to Zimbabwe. Oh, look how much council tax they have to pay. But that's only half the equation. The other half is what happens when something goes wrong. It's easy to compare the price of a loaf of bread, but it's much harder to compare the value of a system that is there when you need it. It's a bit like insurance. Nobody enjoys paying for it. In fact, most people that I know complain about paying for insurance because they've never made a claim in years. But when something happens, all those payments will immediately and suddenly begin to make sense. So sometimes society itself works like insurance. You pay into systems for years. You don't appreciate the systems in the years that you're making the payments, but the day that something breaks, that's when you immediately understand why it was important that you pay into that system. Now, before anybody misunderstands me, there are things that Zimbabwe does far much better than the United Kingdom. One of them is community. If, for example, one of my neighbors needed to move furniture or they were moving homes, I know of several communities in Zimbabwe where the neighbors would just come and help. Whereas in the UK, you know there's some serious money that is going to come out of your pocket. So Zimbabwe will top possibly any country in the world when it comes to family support, community support, hospitality, elderly care that comes just from the respect for elders that is inherent in our culture. Those will not appear on any spreadsheet, but they are all valuable. So the biggest thing I took away from all this wasn't that it cost me nothing. It was that I didn't spend days wondering who I should call next. I did not need to negotiate any prices. I didn't need to phone a cousin who may know a guy who can do this, that, or the other. I simply entered into a system. The system identified the fault. The system sent the right people to come and fix it. So ultimately, the argument is not the UK is better or Zimbabwe is better. It is that cheap and expensive are incomplete ways of comparing countries. The real question is, what do you get for your money? Now, before anyone rushes to the comments, this doesn't mean that the UK is perfect. People complain about a lot of things in the UK. The taxes are too high at the minute. Energy bills have not come down. NHS waiting lists can spend hours in A&E. Cost of housing, the rentals in this country, or even buying a house in this country is astronomical. So all those criticisms are indeed valid. But the experience of the last few days reminded me that there is another side of the equation. Sometimes what we are paying for when you're in the UK isn't just the service itself. You are paying for systems that work when something goes wrong. You are paying for accountability. You are paying for regulation. You are paying for expertise arriving quickly. You are paying for infrastructure that most of us don't even think about until it fails. Imagine the exact same thing happening elsewhere, any country. How many phone calls would you need to make? How many people will be expected to be paid before lifting a shovel? And again, this isn't criticism. It's simply recognizing that functioning systems have value. That value isn't always obvious until the day you need them. This is exactly what I meant in my previous video. We should stop pretending that one place has all the answers. Zimbabwe does have things that the UK doesn't. For diasporan, family connections, community, the climate is good, lower costs across many areas, and a sense of home that simply cannot be bought by any amount of money. But the UK has strengths too, chief among them: reliable infrastructure, consumer protection, public accountability, professional standards, emergency response. None of these things cancel each other out. The mistake we make is wanting one country to win the argument. Instead of asking which country is better, perhaps we should ask a question: what matters most to me? Some people will gladly accept higher costs in exchange for a reliable public service. Others will happily trade services for family connections and a lower cost of living. Neither answer is automatically right. It's a personal calculation. That's why I continue to encourage honest conversations when it comes to people either relocating from the diaspora back to Zimbabwe, or those that are leaving Zimbabwe now to join the diaspora community. If Zimbabwe is working wonderfully for you, share that honestly. If being abroad opened doors that changed your life, share that honestly. We don't help anybody by pretending that either place is paradise. And we certainly don't help anyone by pretending that either place is hopeless. People making these decisions deserve the whole picture, not a highlight reel on Instagram, not a single horror story on Facebook. The truth usually lies somewhere in between. That's the conversation I am interested in having. And I don't believe that this conversation is only important for the relocation story. I think it's a conversation that is important on the broader discussion about the relationship between Zimbabweans in the diaspora and Zimbabweans at home. I think the more we talk and talk to each other and have these honest and open conversations, we will begin to actually create an ecosystem that allows for resources to be focused and be directed properly to support any developmental needs of the country of Zimbabwe. So any differences in aspirations between the Zimbabweans abroad and those at home are manufactured. They are not real. The truth of the matter is everybody, if you're a Zimbabwean or if you're of a Zimbabwean origin, your desire is to see a functioning and prosperous Zimbabwe. So there isn't a place where there should be any divide regarding how we see Zimbabwe between those that are at home and those that are abroad. So that's why this conversation is important. And I think the time has come when Zimbabwe starts to reap the dividend of its diaspora community that has been going abroad over the course of the last 25 years or maybe even more. I would love to hear your thoughts, whichever way you fall on this argument. So my question is, have you ever experienced anything that made you appreciate where you actually live? Whether you're in Zimbabwe, the UK, or elsewhere in the world, what systems or qualities do you value the most? Let's keep the conversation in the comments honest and balanced, because we need to learn from one another, and that's how we can build a better Zimbabwe wherever we happen to be today. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button now. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Muchly appreciated.